6.
Okay.
Not like. Oh, sorry.
And I don't have like much or of a staff report. Ann and I are here to go over any questions and kind of just
Okay.
some of this of, it's a lot. We don't expect you guys can ask questions, but there's a lot of information in her budget as well. So we expect future questions, like at the next council meeting, I can.
Surprise, Chief. That's
Oh,
lucky you. So excited.
Sorry, here, do you want to switch out?
No, that's fine. What's the story on that chair?
There's the one over there in the new building. That's EMS.
Yeah, that might be. Oh, and that's a blue one. I thought the blue ones were fine.
There's one sketchy one.
Oh. That one, there's nothing holding it back.
Yeah.
This is.
Oh, that's-
We're holding it up.
We really need to get different chairs. Yeah.
That's what we're does, and then also. Less. Orange. So, that's why we.
Chuck, can you send down a sign-in book?
Right, everyone signed up to speak.
No, did you want to say it?
Except for
Yeah, public comment thing.
Yeah.
just the general public.
Well, it's a public hearing, so there's an opportunity for the public to speak. You're in the gallery. Call the meeting to order, 6 o'clock. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. The only thing we're here for is a budget public hearing, so. Let's dive right in.
Should we do the pledge?
Usually.
We don't on the special meeting. Oh, we don't. Oh, okay.
All right, I'd like to open the public hearing at 6 o'clock. You say you didn't have much of a staff report. Okay. Anybody in the public like to speak? Jeff?
Yes.
Time.
I would.
Jeff?
And I appreciate all the work that's gone on in terms of providing additional detail in the budget. And I also know it's a challenge for staff given that they're both relatively new in this position, to work through all the numbers. But having been involved with budgets, writing them and reviewing them on the federal, state, and local level, I'd just like to share, I think, some general thoughts to me in terms of how a budget document can be more useful to the public. You know, without really knowing what the budget and expenditures were in prior years, it's hard to know, looking at these numbers, what might be the significant trends or changes that we're seeing in the budget. And so that's sort of a trigger. As you're going through quickly, if you've got that history, you can spot those areas you might want to look at a little more closely. Also, when I'm reviewing a budget, I really like to look for performance measures and objectives for your major budget categories. You know, just to justify certain expenditures that you expect to see, or even revenues. It's not possible, just looking at the numbers in this table, to really know what some of the drivers are behind the budget in many of the line items, such as inflation or workload changes, or the initiation or completion or the curtailment of a project or a program. And so it's different to relate some of the expenditures to a needed objective. There's also a number of categories in here that I'm not quite sure why they're here. They have zero revenue, zero in expenses. And in some cases, they have a cash balance, and in some cases, they don't have a cash balance. And so I wonder why those that don't have any revenue, any expenses, or any cash balance, why are they in the budget? Is there some programmatic reason as to why they're there? If they do have a cash balance, what are we saying? Is this just a program that's in abeyance, that there's no actions planned or associated with those balances? I'm just not quite sure why that would occur. And finally, as I tried to look through it, for example, let's take personnel, salaries and benefits. Well, they're all listed in here in terms of certain categorical functions, but you can't relate them back to a specific site position. And so looking at a personnel position, oftentimes, I know when I was doing budget, rack out each personnel position and then your budget categories, and you'd say how much of a full-time equivalent position or percentage you have for that position in each one of those budget categories. So you kind of know where that position is focusing its time and effort. So those are just a few of the observations I made going through it in terms of what I think makes a more friendly and useful budget document to all concerned. So with that, those are my remarks.
Jeff? Anyone else? Hey. Samson, like to close the public hearing at 6:04. Council staff discussion. Oh, you guys want to go first?
Yep. So I passed out to you, all of you, the budget and the supplemental budget that I would say this is the full version. This is kind of the, I'd say breaks it down a little bit simpler version. The budget that Ann's team's been working on for us. She'll talk more about it. Ann's here to if you have more questions, but she done the look back on the cities, the look back on the rural districts. Their team's also been helping us as we prepare for the rural district to be what we've been calling the dating phase, taking over. I would say this budget reflects 90% the rural districts taking over the fire operations. And her admin team is, I will tell you, is doing a lot of the heavy carrying on it because they've been helping us with personnel policy, admin policy, getting ready if this is the goal still for the first of the year. But we want to give you a look at our budget. The fire commissioners have seen it. We'll go over it again in December is the goal at our joint meeting. But if you have any questions or, let us know. But I will tell you, as an accounting and finance guy, I really appreciate the work they've done with the work there in front of you.
certainly like yours above what we've seen as far as figures in the past, so. It's very simple.
Do you guys want to like a brief,
You want to?
and I'm sure are you prepared to give them like a 5-10 minutes, whatever, of what her thoughts on it? Yeah. Would you guys be okay with that?
Yeah, and one of the questions I was gonna have is how this relates to this, and I think the title tells me, but
Yes.
this is like the Stevenson portion and this is your whole district.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
This is actually the entire district.
Yeah, for your fire
The sup-
district.
The supplemental pages includes a memo, staff memo that we provided to the chief and his commissioners. And then the pages behind that staff memo are the line item details of our budget. As we begin working as things transition to the district doing the entire administration for fire, all of the expenses, all of the accounts receivable, those detailed line items will get more and more and more and more. You will start to see breakdown as though we expect to spend $10,000 on fire hoses, $2,000 on replacement computers, $3,000 on consumable fire supplies. There is not a lot of detail right now because of the way fire suppression costs were accounted for previously. But we've made our best effort, having looked at the 5-year look back, to try to explain how much would be spent on specific things within those line items. The budget that starts with the logo on the front, that is the entire budget. It represents what we believe, based on the chief's direction to us, that the Stevenson Fire Department will spend to provide fire suppression services. And then from these expenses, assuming that the interlocal is amended to allow the chief's admin team to do all of the accounting, you will begin to see expenses differentiated according to the interlocal agreement. So as an example, the city of Stevenson owns a fire engine, and the city of Stevenson, it is proposed that the city of Stevenson cover all of the costs associated with maintaining their capital engine, including the insurance, which you have to insure because we cannot insure an engine that doesn't belong to the district. We will pay that bill, or we will pay a portion of the bill for the maintenance and then bill the city back. And you will see that all reflected by line item, which vendor we paid, what it was for, how the detail is. We'll provide that information to the chief, and then the chief, when he meets with the council and the mayor will, and excuse me, the city administrator will be able to provide all the detail that you need. This is a soft budget because there is no way to tell you with 100% accuracy how much it cost to operate the Stevenson Fire Department. The city was doing some of the work, the district was doing some of the work. Through the 5-year look back, we tried very hard to compile that information. It is still a little bit by guess or by golly, but moving forward, starting January 1, I'm confident that we will be able to tell the chief, this is how much it costs for fire suppression services. This is how much you're going to need in the future to replace equipment, apparatus, cover personnel, and what it costs you per fire response call, which will be very valuable information to not only the fire district, but the city council as well.
And also we worked with EMS and our legal team at the rural district to go over an new interlocal agreement that would reflect the rural district taking over. Wes has a copy of it. If any of you have questions, shoot them to Wes, shoot them to me. And our plan is to meet up in December when we can get a date dialed in with the fire commissioners.
Chief, if I may, if I recall correctly, I think the city is accrual-based county
Cash or cash? Yeah.
for cash basis.
Mhm.
Okay. We're cash basis as well.
Can I ask a point of clarification? So I see Stevenson Fire Department. So this is the entire District 2 budget, And then within that, it's Stevenson or what, to clarify, I'm just got confused.
That's okay. So in this budget, we have, line items. It'll say the district portion. I'll just turn to Len and give you an
Yeah, okay.
example. And of course, please forgive me because I did not budget the, or excuse me, I did not, put page numbers. Okay, so just as an example, and I can show you where this is, Councilmember Rice, at the end of this.
Okay,
But just as an example, so there's radio maintenance fees.
okay,
So radio maintenance fees are fees that emergency service organizations pay to Skamania County for radio infrastructure and maintenance costs.
okay,
We have two line items in our budget for that. One covers the district portion and one covers the city portion.
okay,
We will pay the bill, we will split it accordingly, and then submit an invoice to the city quarterly to reimburse for their costs according to the interlocal. Also in this budget, there is a revenue line item for fire suppression services from the city of Stevenson. That is an estimated amount
mhm,
of $250,000. It's estimated because we don't really know. We've made our best attempt to say this is how much it's going to cost us. But depending on what the interlocal says and depending what the actual expenses are, is how we're going to bill you.
So you're showing that as a revenue?
It is a revenue. It comes in as a professional service from the city to us.
Okay, and that,
We should have a corresponding line item for expense.
then you add up all of the corresponding line items to come up with that 200.
So I actually estimated, after speaking with the chief, I estimated the $250,000 based on the levy rate that the district currently has outside the district. And then the assessed value of the city. I would guess that it may be a little lower than that in the first year, depending on how ambitious the fire chief is able to be in making the positive changes that he has planned. Sometimes things take time. Yes,
Have you been coordinating with Jane on the amounts so she can put those line items in our budget for expense?
So we just got this to our commissioners and the interlocal agreement done like less than 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
So, yeah, we've provided them to Wes and Jane in the last, well, this we got to them today.
yeah, I do believe though that I do believe the city fire fund budget.
It's close to that
It's
number
close.
anyways.
It's
I did
close.
meet with Wes and Jane and I think they had 276 for operating
okay.
costs. So it's close, and that's where, if you have questions, please email us or I'll get them to Ann. Because well, Ann and I both, I guess, will be talking between city council and the fire commissioners as we get, it's kind of a work in progress, but the goal was to get it to where at the first of the year that the fire district could take over. The way I see it, it's probably like 90%, 95%, because really with this plan, it would only be the city is the truck, the lower station, and your insurance and other, I mean, that you're required to have on. You guys also own the command rig as well, but that's something that it would be a split with the rural district since I drive it. But yes, it would be more of like the rural districts carrying 90% of it. And then, yeah, there'd be minimal, I would say minimal admin requirement by the city.
I'd say maybe an hour a year.
Yeah. Other than us providing you reports, invoices, stuff like that, going over them. I think the new interlocal too, if we go to it, goes to, I would still, quarterly, we would present the invoices, but we would go to just a once a year, maybe more. If the goal still is the city wants out of the fire business, next year could be really busy with us negotiating the next steps, and that's what the newer interlocal has. It's a 3-year interlocal. But if the goal is still for us to get the city really wants out of the fire business, then we would spend a lot of the next year trying to figure out what that looks like.
So if we were going to keep the analogy of the crawl, walk, run.
Yeah.
2026 is the walk phase.
Jogging phase,
Right out.
yeah, trying to get into the sprint for, yeah, if that's still the goal, 27, and it will, because, it'll take a lot of, both the legal sides will get a lot of work in that, I'm feeling, in that whole negotiation because of the assets that, how do we figure out what do you guys want? That sort of thing. I hope that it goes really easy, but yeah, it'll be a lot of back and forth. We can talk, but then both of our legals have to say, okay, that's okay. And one could say, no, I like this I dot it this way and this T crossed this way. And it's got to go back to the other side.
Is there a question? Well, our protocol right now on the budget is everything goes, the questions go through you, and then I've been copying Jane. So, if I have a fire district question, as I try to learn this, keep it that way, and do you want me to copy the fire department as I send them, or do you want to take care of that? I'll do whatever you tell me.
I mean, the fire district is separate from me, so if you have something specifically related to this, and if that's okay, just have them directed to you.
Yeah. As long as
Okay.
it-
Yeah.
as long as it
Okay,
keeps
and
us
then
on-
what I'll
Yeah.
do is to keep you in the loop because it's
Yeah.
related to the city, I'll copy you. I just
Yeah.
wanted to know what the.
So long as
That's great.
the original question and the reply goes back.
Yeah, keep it in the circle. It's fine, because Ann's always gonna ask me, like, this has been a lot of back and forth. It's more just some input on things, and her team and the district's legal team working through getting all of this out. And they've been a great help, because they had just an interlocal agreement, because that's all they do is first responder legal that we work with. So, yeah, if you wanna, Wes, or believe me, if we have time, if it's like, hey, let's a group of us meet or whatever, we can try to do that for down here at City Hall or whatever too. I know we're trying to get some meetings planned, because not only is there's the interlocal as well. So kind of a lot of moving pieces.
And the way we've been working it is then if you reply all, because I can't communicate with the
Yep.
rest of council, but you
Yep.
can, so then they'll
Yes.
get the benefit
Yes.
of Dave asked.
Yes, Wes could send the question to me if that's what you want to do. And then I can just type in city
fine.
council or whatever it is, right? It goes to all of you.
In the BCC.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, yep,
Okay, got it.
yep. Okay.
Kelly.
I will think one thing that's in here too that you'll see we've talked about is the city wouldn't even, in this plan, wouldn't even make the payroll on the fire department, even the officers or the chief anymore. It would all go through the rural district now. So it's like minimal admin or like minimal city workload on it.
Only thing the city will pay is stuff that we can't separate, like the insurance bill. But we'll pay for everything else and bill them back cheap.
Yep.
Else for the team?
All right.
Thank you.
I'll leave a copy here if anybody wants to see that. Thanks, Ann.
Sheriff, are you here to witness? Or are you here to present? Are you just?
I can present, but if there were any questions, I just wanted to make sure that I was available, based on the asking and increase for our contract, so, try to be available if possible.
Good. All right, so in front of you, you have the dense report that you were asking for at the last special meeting. So I see there's a packet of questions that have been asked and answered. So what else does the group have for staff? For the greater good?
Well, that's good. Oh, the silence, I can ask it to you and then I can. Okay, we know 2025 hasn't closed yet. So, but yet, for the budget, we need the beginning fund balances in 2026. So, we're just making assumptions then, that's the only course, and then as we pass this budget, because it's before the end of the year, we're just hope those assumptions are correct, and then where they're not correct, we will then do a supplemental budget. Is that how it works?
Yeah, if it's, you know, you'll have a cash carryover into, you know, so if it has a positive ending balance, you can do the cash carryover into that fund. Or, if there's a negative, when we talked about the, interfund transfers.
And I just have a couple more questions, and then other people will have collected their thought. Okay, in this budget, what I realize is my main impediment is what I have to learn. And so that's been tough because the language you use is different than in a business. For example, the equipment rentals in business is depreciation, but here it's equipment rental. So all our assets, whether it's a lawnmower or a pickup, fire station, fire truck or whatever, basically is a piece of equipment and so is it true that every piece of that equipment will then have an equipment rental rate? Is that how it works? And that's, in business, that would be a depreciation rate. So, and then that, we get each budget, then each department gets billed based on how they use that equipment. Is my brain starting to work right as I learn this budget? Is my thinking accurate?
From my understanding, which is fairly limited, you know, I work within my budget, but we get into the certain bars codes I don't touch much. The way that largely works is when the crew is working with the back truck, for instance, and they're doing a water service, those hours are recorded at the end of every month. And then the equipment service fund charges the water department or the sewer department or the street department. And then those funds get transferred into the equipment service. I believe that's where that rental comes from.
Okay. And so that'll always be a rental. And so how small does a piece of equipment get before we don't have rental rates or depreciation rates in normal business? Do we get down to the lawnmower has that? Or at what level do we stop? Do we no longer have rental rates on pieces of equipment?
Fleet equipment, so pickup trucks, heavy machinery, loaders, or excavators, or trailers, stuff like that. Our lawnmower, no.
Okay, then just one more general question and I'll be quiet for a while. I understand there's this thing called bars code. And that bars codes are state codes that house everything. And everything is tied, every transaction that is made in our budget then is tied to a bars code.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so out of that bars code, that number will have been either one of two things, and tell me if I'm wrong or not. I'm just trying to make sure my learning, so I don't go 2 months and think I learned it all wrong. That bars code then will be based on very specific things, or else it's an estimate. It's gonna be one of the two, right? I mean, do we ever estimate, are the bars code numbers in here ever estimates and not based on something that then goes to a set of numbers in the budget?
The bars codes themselves are not, but the line items.
Yeah, the line items.
Line items may be
The amounts.
estimated.
Okay, yeah, so how do we know, is there a way to know in the budget when there's a number that's tied to a bars code, whether that's an estimate or whether that's, as I go through the budget, or that's that's based on a set of sub numbers?
Like
Like
zero-based budget.
Yeah.
It's just, we don't budget everything down to the exact penny, you know, it's here, we spent a certain amount on our utilities last year, we're gonna estimate that we're gonna spend that amount plus inflation or whatever the increase is this coming year. So that's how we've been doing our budgeting.
So everything is gonna be based on an estimate then?
Roughly, I mean, you gotta have some wiggle room in there. You can't, you know,
Okay.
plan a project and
Okay.
expect it's gonna be 100% that.
Okay, so those are my,
Am I correct in making the statement that a large part of our budget for this year is just based upon historical expenditures from this last year?
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
how we've done it here, yeah.
there was actually that one line item that we found that was kind of a duplicate in function from one of the budgeted items that was,
Okay.
already budgeted someplace else as well, so. I don't know if it's an appropriate statement to make at this point in our discussion. There's some things that I'd kind of like to see in the future that I would not expect to be in place for the budget for this year. Appropriate to make. Okay. Historically, we've allocated salaries respectively from certain budgeted items rather than having an administrative or executive salary line item. It'd be kind of nice to take and show, as a revenue portion of whether it be the general fund or whether it be a specific fund set aside for city employee salaries, where you have revenue showing certain line items or items that are expensed at certain other funds or internal, transfers back into that line item, so we can actually see where all the salaries are rather than trying to ferret them out from all the various funds.
Can we do that this year? I mean, for next year?
For next year, I don't think
I mean, for this budget we're working on, is there any reason we can't have that for this budget that we're working on?
it would be a tremendous amount of.
No, because maybe I misunderstand. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to flesh out what you're saying, because I have the same question. We have like Wes's salary, it can be in several places, or can we get all the salaries in one place? Even though we're gonna have subcategories of them, isn't that what you're saying? And I can't understand if that is why we couldn't have them.
Where they're allocated right now could be expense items that go back into that fund, as a part of revenue toward the executive salary fund, that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, not all of Cody's goes to, the water, water supply. There's like wastewater and streets and maintenance and admin and all sorts of breakdowns.
Right, within each of those funds, there's
Right, I see.
a salary expense,
An expense towards his salary.
Mhm.
right?
So how do you come up with
So
those amounts in those different funds?
There's different, I have a worksheet for that has the percentages, for each breakdown, and I can forward that to you. Take it back to you.
Are you asking them how to figure out which funds they're pulling? Like, and again, I'm gonna use fund round numbers. Say Cody's salary, $10,000 and 2,000 from this fund, 1,500 from that fund. Are you saying, how do they get the breakdown? How do they know where they're pulling it from?
No, I'm wondering about the actual salaries and benefits that you pull for the different employees
Okay.
for that amount of money.
Mhm.
In other words, if you've got 5 different employees that are in one particular line item here that says salaries, water treatment salaries.
Sure.
And then you also have benefits, and there's just 2 line items.
Mhm.
But you may have 5 different people supposedly plugging into those 2 values. How do you know which ones are going into that and what?
That's billed hours. I would think, again, I'm not, maybe I'm wrong, that I would think that that's 5 people who build hours working on that line item. Like if it's water sewer, more, you can be more specific at all those lines, but like, so I do coding. I'm a payroll person and I do coding for a government agency, and that's what we do. Is I'll have one person who on a day, they have 5 different sets of codes that they used, and it's 2.5 hours, 1 hour, and that gets approved by the manager, goes through payroll, and so then at the end, what you and I would see would be 9 nurses worked on this thing.
Right.
And so I won't see those names, but those have to get coded. Each hour has to get coded to somewhere.
Right.
And that's where they get those percentages from.
Okay, so then my next question is when we go into the base salaries for those individuals, line items, say, Public Works Director.
Sure.
Are those amounts backed out of those salaries? and benefits.
What do you mean?
The line
Backed
item, the line item for the salary for Cody, say he's a $70,000 salary. And you have now got him put into all of these different spots within streaks or whatever, okay?
Yeah,
Are those amounts backed out of that $70,000? Or are we double dipping?
right,
Double counting, yeah.
right. I don't,
Because if his salary is set at $70,000 by the salary schedule.
Mhm.
And then you go into streets and you include part of whatever work he does in that category in streets. Are you reducing that $70,000 at that point? You understand what I'm
I
saying?
understand what you are, it's, so in the entire budget, will this number get smaller as we allocate them to these? And I think
Yes.
they're showing, there's a line item they should match at the end.
That's-
They'll be 70,000 and you'll get a total of 7, because
Wow.
it's
That's
equal
kind
out,
of-
the debit and the credit.
Yeah, that's
Equals
kind of what
out
I'm
in the books to
getting at.
be at 0.
And talking about, there's only one salary that comes directly out of the general fund, and that's our city administrator. And what,
No, you also have planning,
planning, okay,
or not planning, but
but so, right,
financial.
so you'd have to take all of the salary and benefit line items and all the different funds and add them all together to get an aggregate of what we're paying employees. And it would be nicer to have, the job positions lined out as a part of the general fund, part of our administrative expenses. And then allocations for each of those positions, how much for each of those line items.
Yeah.
Yes, so they're offset. So you have the expense on that one line item, then you show a revenue on the others.
I understand what you're saying, Dave, and I think that it's absolutely a valid question. It isn't easy to track in the
But
way that
it
we
should
see it.
be easy with a
I'm
spreadsheet.
saying it's not easy to track in the way that we see it, but it is something that is like, there is a plus and a minus in the final books to show these are all.
And I get that. I get that.
But I'm not saying we shouldn't
Yeah.
change the presentation to make it so that we see, because that has been a question for a couple of years.
Well, and I don't think it's just a matter of changing the presentation. I need to know whether or not those amounts are changing,
Or whether they balance out.
right?
Right.
And
No,
right now, I can't tell that
Sure.
by all of these different categories where you've got a clerk salary or a record salary or a planning salary or whatever it is. I can't tell if those amounts are backed out of.
Right. No, I understand exactly what you're saying. I know what you're asking.
Oh,
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing on this and then I'll drop it from my end because I know I can ask additional questions to you folks. And that is, I understand you sent some Excel spreadsheets today, which I very much appreciate. But and I haven't used those sheets for a long time, in other words, in my own business, but those sheets are like a god in a way. I mean, they're better than God, I think, because you can do anything with them. So really, if you're working with Excel spreadsheets, these are questions that can be answered in 2 minutes. One knows how to use a spreadsheet. Spreadsheet can multiply. That's the point of the whole thing. It'll multiply. It'll give you whatever information you want. It's at your fingertips. So I think what I'm trying to say, Chuck, is I think your question is really legitimate. And we should be able to have that information now. And it should probably only take about 2 minutes if somebody knows how to work with spreadsheets to give us the information. And so what I'll do is any follow-up questions I have, I'll just email them to you because I've seen the great work you've done and I know, and I'm very appreciative of it because you gave me the answers I had on my questions pretty fast.
Yeah.
So I know you can do it and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, and then to be sure, we weren't asking you guys for the last couple of years about, but this question about where hours are allocated and payroll, making it easier to see and being able to track it has been something that's come up in past budgets before, and so that is one that would be very beneficial to be able to see and track where those kind of all the pieces of the pie go.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And I think it's more a question of presentation and that the fact that the report and the breakdown that it spits out is very difficult to follow because it's 150 some pages and you would have to go cross-reference each one, which I think back to what Chuck was saying is that it's so difficult to have to go back and look at each one and where it breaks down from a certain salary. But if we just had it in a different format with this person here and their salary broken down just like that, and it equals out to their full salary, it's a lot easier to read that way, but it's just something that we don't have at the moment. So it's,
But I think you do, and that's why I don't mean to get, you do, because one time, a couple of weeks ago, I was asking for the total staff, the wages, and I was told, I forgot who told me, that would take weeks and weeks and weeks. I took what they sent me and I put it on Google, and I said to Google, can you tell me what we spent with what the person, with the information I got, how much we spent in total wages? In about 30 seconds, Google spit out the name, what they did, and the total gross pay for last year. I then sent that back to the city and I said, is this accurate? And at about 10 minutes later, somebody sent back and said, it looks accurate to me. Well, I had just been told that those figures were impossible to come up with. What I'm trying to say is, and I think Jane knows what I'm saying, this stuff should be easy to come up with, and if it's not, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, no, I can get it for you, just give me
Yeah.
some, give me a little bit of time. to
Oh,
get it
yeah,
to you.
sorry, which,
Can get it to you tomorrow if you want, so.
The thing I'm struggling with
Mhm.
is that you approve a budget. And staff is asked to perform and pay salaries within that budget. So being able to drill down and have that and watch the ebb and flow, and then as raises come and go, this is the level of micromanagement that you guys are comfortable putting staff through. This is what we're talking about.
you call this micromanaging?
If you're wanting to see the changes from month to month to month. if you
No,
wanna
nobody
see
asked that. We
changes,
asked for the aggregate
That's what I
total.
heard Chuck ask for. So I just want to make sure that what we're talking about is the same thing. They're given a budget to work in and they are expected to work within it.
Right.
So just making sure that we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah. The only thing I'm saying right now, the way it works is that we have salaries, prescribed salaries that we're paying employees. And I'm making the assumption that if we make allocations from each of the budget items to facilitate funding those salaries, that any variations or any overages or shortages are basically washed in the general fund. And I guess, so do we really need to tie those salaries specifically to each of those separate fund items?
It's the opposite of micromanaging, I would argue.
well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. And again, I think that would be a change for next year.
Okay.
In the way we do it, but it's not a bad idea. It's just a different approach and how we break down the salaries.
Any other questions?
Well, Mayor, in all due respect, when you're talking about micromanaging there, it makes me almost afraid to ask the rest of the questions I have. So I think because I got about 15 pages of questions, because where I'm coming from, and is I really want to understand the budget. That's all I want to know. Because you're wanting a yes vote on a multi-million-dollar budget. And I know whether or not I understand it or not. And when I tutored accounting, I knew when it clicked, when I got it, I could teach somebody else. And so I'm just waiting for this multi-million-dollar budget to click in my brain to where I understand it now. And I could explain it to a citizen at A&J's if they ask me a question on it. That's the only level I'm wanting to get to. Because, so I'm not interested in coming in and running City Hall, but I am interested in running and learning the budget. So
And that's what we're here for. Get you to understand the budget and then allow staff to use those numbers. So 15 pages. Get started.
Just had, and I'm sorry I didn't ask Ray when he was here, but I'm glad that we've sat down and actually put money in the budget for it. But there was one line item there for fire hall repair for $84,000. has that been an item that we've discussed before, as council's discussed before?
So traditionally it was it's not worth spending money on because we're looking to build a new one. There's no solid plan to build a new one. So letting it fall down is something
Not
we're
an
trying
option.
to avoid here so that it doesn't cost more to put it back together. So I don't know where that placeholder dollar came from, if it's tied to a particular project, maybe it has something to do with historical repairs that have had been, maybe it's painting. There have been some projects that have been kind of flying around as far as things that were.
Okay, it's actually on page 11.
Their budget or our
It's,
budget?
yeah, their budget.
This is talking about.
Fire hall repair right there,
$80-some thousand.
$84,000, yeah.
It's on our, no, it's page 11 of the Stevenson's budget, city Stevenson's budget.
So that could be painting. There's been a couple projects that have been talked about, or just general repairs, so I don't
Well, the
know.
roof was, I mean, there's different things that they've had to look at. The boards are just different. So I don't know the answer to that either. I don't know what that specifically is for, but that's a question we can actually get up to. Look through this. I haven't had a chance to look through this the way I want to either, because we
Right.
got tonight, so
Yeah.
that may be something that's figured out.
That was his comment when he
Yeah.
dropped it off. So we're not here to give you a presentation on this. This is for you to start to sink your teeth into it. And we'll go.
Another question I have is that, okay, the 10% are, in each of these fund items, are we, somewhere we talked about it, there was a 10% contingency mentioned. I mean, in other words, contingency, I meant
Reserves.
reserve.
Yeah.
Okay, and is that the goal for each of the funds that we go through, or just some of the funds?
Jane, is that for all funds
It
or
was
just?
to meet ordinances,
Right, but that's just for the regular standing funds like water, sewer, streets,
whatever was required, it wasn't
Right.
anything
Good,
additional.
general fund too.
general fund, right?
So most of the funds then will have the 10%, and that's
Yeah.
to cover
That's our cushion.
contingencies.
And
Correct.
that's by ordinance.
Yes.
Yeah.
The goal that was set by council.
Don't want to hold the questions, that's why I'm pausing between. On the rates, which funds, the water and sewer, all that, for next year, do we still need rate studies for? Or are we going by the old, I'm trying to figure, do we have updated information, from the rate studies that we typically do? Are we using updated information, or do we need to have rate studies done before those figures get really accurate
I think that
for water and sewer?
the last we left it was that we were going to ask the last company that did the last rate study to update based on the TBD funds, the transportation benefit.
That's the
Okay,
district.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, those are the two rates, and we have them now. Unfortunately, Ben was running that project, so we do need to get back to them to refresh those rates. But the last rate study was fairly recent. They were already on for that one, so.
Right, okay, so I know these aren't gotcha questions, these are just trying to fit my memory, so how are that? Okay, so we don't really need to go back to them, we've got it, and the only difference was that 0.3% or whatever that 0.03% amount.
And
Right.
then they were gonna help us with the allocation of how they were distributed amongst the different classes of, or the different types of.
And the
repairs.
ARPA funds.
Okay.
We put the ARPA funds into the sewer fund.
Right.
So that affects the rates. We just need to make sure that we have all those covered when we sit down and start going through those.
Correct, because that's how the debt repayment was figures was based on those.
Yes.
Those
Yes.
rate studies.
We will be doing a water rate study, simply because of the water system plan. It's part of that. So
Yeah.
we will get a new one by the end of the year, by the end of 2026.
I think we're voting on that tonight.
Correct.
So, okay.
No, I'm sorry, you're voting on long-term water supplies.
Right, but the.
I mean, the 166,
Yeah.
the phase B,
Yes,
Part of that.
two different projects. Long-term water supply is the Rock Creek investigation, the Hague Wall, figuring out if we need to go groundwater or surface water. And then we have a water system plan, which is a separate.
Okay.
DOH requirement that is in the budget
Yeah.
currently.
what is it?
Both items are budgeted, right?
Both are correct.
Yeah.
Should Pat, you got?
Okay, is it, no, that was an estimate. And I reserve the right not to ask them all tonight because we do pretty well in email and it goes to everybody. But, all the loans with, I get confused because I've seen different sets of numbers on the sewer plant. So, when do all the loans close?
You wanna know, like, when,
In other words, when do they, like we have a USDA loan, when do the loans close?
When do they
the
mature?
first debt service payments begin? And you may have covered this before. and it- Okay, but I meant the month, when, I mean, when,
you
in
want
this,
like an amortization schedule of everything? Or that?
I just want to know when we start paying those loans. And it'd be great to know what our loans were in the month, and I realize that says, that gives us information, broad information, but what month do we start paying the loans and how
Okay.
much?
Okay.
On all our loans. You know, it'd be great to have on one sheet, what is our total indebtedness and what loan payments we make, and what is the interest? And just on one page, so that we know. And on the sewer rate, on the sewer, I've seen different figures given out in terms of that $18 million sewer plant on how much was grants and how much was loans and how much was from current monies. So it'd be great to see. I mean, like, did we get an $8 million grant or was it 5 million? You know, just to see that once again, because I've seen two different things
Yeah.
on that were inconsistent.
Yeah, and we can get that too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Are you looking for exact amounts from each agency or the breakdown on how money came in? What is your?
Well, there's two different things. One is, what is the indebtedness of the city? And when do we start making payments on that indebtedness, whatever it is? And what the principal amount is, and then and that's basically what I want to, and then with the sewer, what did it cost? How much did we pay? Or, well, and then generically, 18 million, 18.1 or whatever it is, sewer plant. This amount was covered by grants, and this amount is covered by local taxpayers.
We can get that too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've just seen two different people said two different things on that, and it would nail that down.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, my I saw a separate figure too that I was concerned about, but my understanding was that the plant cost was originally about 17 million. That we had a little over $4 million in grants, or about $5 million in grants that, well, where we wound up with about a $12 million service that we financed.
Yeah, that's something I'm a little bit confused on too, is the exact amount in grants, because because this project started so long ago, I'm having trouble tracking down the number, but I'm sure we can find exactly what it is.
Yeah, because the figures I have is closer to $8 million in grants.
$8 million
Yeah, that's
in
what I've
grants.
seen at one time.
That's what I saw too. So I've
$2
seen
million
both.
line appropriation from the feds, so yeah, they're 10% funds.
8 million off of the 17 that it cost.
Right.
So,
And then low interest loans from a couple different agencies.
so the debt service is closer to 9 million.
Rough math, but it's rough math sitting around.
That's fine.
So yeah, we'll have to get the exact figures.
Yeah. That's what we do.
and then just one more thing, and the street fund, I saw a lot of, and I'm sorry if my excitement over learning the budget makes me sound, I can see where somebody might, because I get excited, they think these are hostile questions, like I'm trying to, but no, this is just me wanting to learn the stuff and call it, maybe I'm not the smartest one at this table, and so it takes me a little longer than some. So I'm sorry you're stuck with that. But, yeah, but like this, there was a lot of stuff for chip sealing and stuff next year. And so is that stuff that is definitely going to happen, or is that, I was trying to figure out in this budget. I'm used to the budget being, this is what the council wants done next year. These are the priorities, and there's some of that, but I'm having to piece it together. This is what our priorities are as a council for 2026. And then we leave it to you to prepare a budget and how to fund that. And part of me is thinking we missed that piece, like what do we really want to see as a city next year? Do we want code enforcement, better code enforcement? Do we want better maintenance of the parks? Do we want, that's a discussion that I'm wrapping my head around that I don't think really happened. Or if it did, I missed it. So when I look at it from the 100,000-foot view, is, well, what streets are we wanting paid next year? And then do we have the budget to support it? So, or is the budget just, hey, if, I think that I saw some big numbers there for, is this just, if we get this, then we'll pave streets versus these are the streets we're gonna pave and this is what it'll cost. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Correct. Yeah, my intention is to do some sort of road preservation project every year. We have 17 miles of road within the city. And if we don't continue to fix those up, we're gonna be millions of dollars in debt to repair them all at once. So funding 50 to 100 to 150,000 a year is kind of my intention. This year we focused a lot on Ash Alley, Seymour and Middle Russell area. The year before we focused a lot on Foster and Ryan Allen and Shenandoah. And this year I want to share some attention to the more central part of town at the Jefferson Roselawn area. It's degrading really bad. It would be some resurfacing, some paving, and then some chip seal.
Yeah.
It's tied into the capital improvement plan.
Correct.
I don't think any of those are on the capital improvement plan for next year. Cause I didn't see any chip sealing at all on that.
I'll take a look.
Jefferson maintenance is on it. 26.
Unless you put it into the Lasher Street project.
It might have been 27, could have been 27 because I complained it wasn't 26. That's how you
Well, just one more thing, then I'm gonna be quiet for a while, and I promise, because I can know emails work pretty well. Everybody will see those, so I'm gonna ask one more question related to the Lasher Street project, so I appreciate you bringing that up. And that was, we don't have all the funding for that, correct? From what I heard from staff.
Well, we're not sure.
For Lasher, or do we?
Correct. No, we do not. We're.
So how, this budget, and it's just me trying to learn where I can pull stuff, so I don't have to pepper you folks with questions. That's why once it clicks for me, then you won't have to hear from me again, because I can just go to the budget and find it. Once I know what I'm looking for and I learn the budget, or where it should be theoretically. But how much of that, of our budget now, or do we have expense for Lasher Street? Or next year, you don't have to answer this now, but it's a question in my brain. Are we expensing in the 2026 budget that becomes unnecessary if we don't get unanticipated some grant somewhere? In other words, you see what I'm saying? Is that, do we have a budget amount for that project?
Page
Staff
40.
time or whatever,
Yeah.
that's based on, we'll spend that if we get a grant. And if we don't get a grant, we don't have to spend this because we
page
won't have a
24.
grant. Does that make sense?
Page 24.
Okay.
It's $450,000.
Okay, so that's, thank you.
Two grants, one for 50, one for 400. If we don't get them, then there's no funding for it.
So the 400 is good, right? It was that 900 that we started with.
So we started with $900,000 of washed out funding, and we were working on procuring additional funding. Something happened in the House and that got reduced down to 400,000. And most of that has gotten eaten up in design. So we are in the process of procuring additional funding through different grant opportunities. If we do not get that, then we will not move forward with the project this year. And to further answer your question, the only thing I have in the budget is for a hydrant. So about a $5,000 to $10,000, because that
Okay.
will be included
Okay,
through the grant process. They won't fund that, so that would be something we fund.
okay, so that, yeah, that was my question. So we have basically for last year, we have of our own money, the city's money, 5 to 10,000 for hydrant. And then if we don't get that additional funding, then that's all we'll be spending on last year, the city.
Correct. And
Okay,
then,
thank you.
yeah, and then that 5 to 10,000 for that hydrant, there's lots of hydrants that can be replaced, so we'll
Yeah.
find a new one.
Okay, thank you. I'm done with my questions. Please, anybody else?
I was just wondering, the proposed amount for police services is almost double what it was in 2022. Was there justification for that?
From what year?
2022 was like 186.
David's been in the discussion. We've got Jeff from here. So how do we get from
What is it?
A to B? What was you call it? Double? Say your question again. Ask your question again.
The proposed amount for police services 360,000, and in 2022 it was 186. But what's the justification for that increase?
There was the contract negotiations for 23 through 25 raised it to 300 and some thousand based upon what the call volume was. And currently the sheriff is asking for an additional 50,000. That has not been confirmed yet with between Wes and Mr. Rice and myself. I'm a little bit concerned with that amount, only because of where we are with the budget, and I'm not sure we know where we are with budgeted items right now. And so we still have to have those discussions. I'm a little bit surprised that this amount of 360 is in the budget right now, because that has not been finalized yet. Just like all of the TAC items in the TAC budget. There's a whole list of items in there that none of those have even been addressed yet by the TAC committee, but yet they are in the budget. This year, we did a supplemental budget after the first of the year, once we knew which ones were being approved. So I'm surprised that we're doing that as well. So, but to answer your question, it was because the way the contract was set up.
So is it safe to say that is a placeholder number and means nothing? And right now, I think if you ask me, it's, oh yeah, so you can't really go by that number.
I'd be happy to elaborate a little bit further if I have permission. So currently at the price that the city of Stevenson is paying, you're paying for 1.99 deputies for full 24/7 coverage, with the highest call volume in the county within the city limits. The city of Benjamin White Salmon, their annual budget in 2023 was $1.4 million to operate law enforcement services. This is not a sustainable program at the current rate that the city of Stevenson is paying to continue the police services that they're receiving. And I did outline in a 2-page document provided to our city administrator as well as our 2 councilmen here, explaining the increased costs of everything in law enforcement that has occurred. So something will have to give. It's not a placeholder. It is 100% something that I would hope that the city of Stevenson would prioritize public safety services.
And Sheriff, I agree with that, but there comes a point where those monies are coming from, and we may have to reduce the services that are requested with the amount of money that we have available. So I'm looking at that as well.
Another thing I'm wondering about is if we have options for adding to the affordable housing.
So we looked at a study, and I always hate, I choke on when I say study, because study is talking and not doing, but we need someplace to start, and we're not set up at City Hall to stand up a full program yet, but between the housing needs assessment, is what it was, and then that program that I shared with all of you last week. There are CHIPS program, and it feels like we have someone that we might be able to partner with on that one. So it's something that we did incorporate when we were starting out with the budgeting process. The challenge we have is where do we allocate money towards what? So that's how we approached it. Yes, we want to spend money, but what's how?
Correct.
And I think this discussion makes the point I was making earlier, because you have three important things here. Yeah, you talked about what chip seal we put on our streets, housing, and then crime prevention. And each of those budgets affect our citizens somehow, and they're competing against each other. That's our problem. And tell that to the crime victim who doesn't have an officer show up. In other words, we got to figure out whether we have an officer show up for a crime victim or not, or whether that could determine we either pave our streets, or I mean, we could cut back on some chip sealing and cover the crime victim that doesn't get an officer to show up, or we could do affordable housing. And all Dave was trying to say, and the term placeholder was trying to say, is that we can't afford it all and we got to figure it out. And that's why I think we approach this philosophical discussion of what we're going to provide for our citizens. I feel how much housing versus how much crime prevention versus street paving. These three discussions we had in the last 10 minutes. I wish we would have spent more time on that as we started this process.
Mutually exclusive, because, I mean, people call the police for people who are homeless, and so that's housing is crime prevention.
Yeah.
Police just responded to the crime after it happens.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I'm not saying that isn't correct. I'm just trying to say you can only spend $1 once, I mean. So that is what's not mutually exclusive, the funds that pay for all this.
You squeeze the balloon. If you squeeze the balloon, it's gonna bulge out. And so you just have to figure out where you're gonna cut back to make things work out.
Well, one observation, because this is a budget, as long as we've made the correct assumptions on the revenue stream, everything in this entire 41-page report balances.
Yes.
So any allocations that have been set forth in this document is technically money we should have in the budget to pay. So if we've allocated it, we allocated the $360,000, it's there. So, I mean, is that a workable amount for your department for what we've set aside for services?
Absolutely. And my request was $50,000 for asking for a 2-year contract, $50,000 for 2026, and a $50,000 increase in 2027. Obviously, we're discussing 2026 now. And I'm assuming that extra 10% is probably a CPI estimate, because I think right now we're sitting at just over just over $300,000 with the CPI increase. And then obviously there'll be another CPI increase in 2026.
No, I mean, a lot of the stuff, as we know, changes when we start doing supplemental budgets, we start getting the actual balance transfers over. So January, February, there's gonna be some flux in some of these things. But this is a good discussions, and I think being able to find the answers was important. We all are looking for different answers in the budget things. And so I think that the data that was given was helpful for me. And I want to look at, the stuff that we got from Ray tonight. We'll have some more homework and maybe we'll come up with different questions, but I also appreciate that we get to see the questions that everybody asks. Because some of those are repeat, more than one of us have the same thought during the week, so I appreciate being able to see those answers.
I have a lot of questions. Jane, thank you for sending that Excel spreadsheet because I tried to print off that PDF file
It's small.
and I needed a friggin' magnifying glass in order to be able to read it.
Yeah.
And some of us don't have the ability to go into a PDF and save that and print it. Because we don't have Adobe, whatever it is. And I'm too cheap to pay the $30-some a month just so I can read budget spreadsheets. And quite frankly, I have no idea on where to start with all of these questions. Because I have gone through the entire spreadsheet here and I've got a lot of red on it. And to me, there's a lot of things that concern me. One, I'll just throw this out. On line number 33, your Excel spreadsheet, which is general admin services, you compare that to 2024, I believe. And when I added up you have a overhead costs of $357,862. But when I add up all of those same line items, I come up with $429,215, which is about $71,000 difference. And so I question what's going on. That just starts my questions of what's going on with some of these things. And I don't know why.
So you're wanting to know what's anticipated to be spent out of that?
No. I'm saying that you budgeted $357,862. Okay, for those items. And that includes, and when you click on your upper cell for the formula, it'll highlight all of the things in the 2026 proposed. You add all of those that are highlighted, you add those up, and they do not come to that amount of money. They come up to a lot more.
It shouldn't have a different total if it's specifically naming which cells that it's adding. But I'm happy to go through the form or the workbook. Not right at this moment,
Yeah,
but I'll go through it.
and again, my questions on all of these salaries that we have in here and benefits, where they're split out. Who are they for?
Sure, yeah, I can. Provide that.
We have a brand new permit tech records manager that was hired.
Yes.
I'd understood that we were bringing money down and bringing some money up.
That's correct.
And I look at this and the amount of money we're paying him, it's $87,000 plus an additional $21,750 in benefits.
That's not correct. It's not 87,000.
It's $35,000 at 40% on line number 75.
I don't think that's specifically for just his salary. If there's other line item or other staffing that's posted to the record salary as well. Other people doing other things.
Okay, so this is what we're getting to, and this is what Jeff was talking about.
Right,
We don't know who is in these line items in.
and that's fine, and we
And-
can provide that
And
to you.
so, okay,
And I don't know what exactly you're looking for unless you tell me, so I appreciate that you're asking, for the breakdown.
on line 112, what are general government contractual services? 39,000.
So I can tell you historically what they've been.
But that's one of my questions. So I don't need to know it right now.
Okay.
The 360,000 for police services has not been finalized yet. There's a $2,000 on line 167 protective inspections code enforcement software for $2,000. What's that software?
Cloud permit.
Okay, the dispatch fees and radio contacts on line 169 and 170. That 2,500 and 3,500, that should be in the fire budget. It should not be in the general budget because that has only to do with fire dispatch services.
It's the one question.
The radio,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought, I
right
was
now.
told it was because the city has their own, lines. Or their own radio frequencies.
Yeah,
And so that's what we pay out of that.
that's what Roy told us when we asked him about that.
Okay, and do you have that documentation from your radio?
I can research it and provide you.
Okay. The rest of your 60% of your permit deck is under line 176, where it's called development review salary. So that's where you come up with that amount of money. You add that with the 40% up above. You
Right.
come up with your $87,000.
But again, if there's someone else that's broken down into either of those categories, that's gonna
Okay,
be part of that.
For instance, I spent a lot of time in development review.
Yeah, so it's not just the one person.
I don't know if this.
We're just stating that 60% of that person's pay comes out of that line. It doesn't mean that 52,000 of that person, is that person's pay.
I don't know if this helps any, and probably not, and I don't want to convolute the whole issue, but, you asked questions about contractual services, the general government contractual services and things. They're working off of line items of expenses that we had for this year. And I don't know how they're gonna ferret all of that out between now and next year. They're trying to make budget projections based on historical expenditures. Those two items were things like, what was the company, Pepe, that they did the thing for the 0.3% sales tax. There was another one for, so those were some of the services that we contracted for last year that they've actually added back in again for this year's budget that won't be similar expenses this next year. And I don't know how they're given what they're trying to do and projecting a budget for us, that they're going to be able to ferret all of those things out. There will probably be expenses that we have that are not included. There will probably be budgeted items that they won't use because they were expenses that were unique to this year's expenditures. That's kind of the nature of a budget. It's trying to make your best guesses of what you're gonna be spending next year.
Which probably is the whole point of these meetings. The more accurate we can get it, the more
The
we can
better.
decide how much we have for Sheriffshire
Right.
or for housing. So the more we can fine tune it, right? The better.
I mean, I can keep going on for the next probably 35 minutes and reverse all
Well, I
these
think it would
things.
be more productive, maybe if you come and we sit together and we can go through the line items together. Or if you email me specific ones, then I can provide you a breakdown of what historically has happened or what we planned to do.
Also, we have a 13th month, so once all of the final numbers come in, then we can compare the budgeted items to the expenditures. And get a better idea of what didn't get spent or what did get spent, so that we can enhance those forecasts for next year.
However that happens, if it happens verbally in a meeting between you, could we still get an email to everybody on what the answers were so that then I give the benefit of the
I think
information?
that if it's a line item breakdown of what is coming out of each line, that's going to be a very bulky.
Oh, I just
report.
meant the answers to his questions, however
Yeah,
that
well,
happens.
yeah, he has a lot of, I mean, if we're going line by line, you know, that's what we're trying to do. It's gonna be a lot.
You weren't covering every line in the budget, were you? I mean, you just had a half hour's worth. So, it won't be line by line.
So general admin fees. We're covered up above, but we still have general admin fees and all these other funds.
Salary expense.
Salaries are different, like the admin fees, like we talked about this morning, there was things like legal fees, those sort of things that, wasn't it one of the first line items that we talked about? And had the breakdown of professional services or.
Well, and the reason I bring it up, I'm looking at the tax funding,
Mhm.
and we've got $20,708 in there for general admin fees. I'm trying to figure out, since we're giving away money, why we have got $20,708 in there for admin fees. That makes no sense to me at all. And my, I guess, I don't know. It's just, it confuses me when I look at that. We had $7,257 budgeted in 25, and there has been nothing pulled out in 2025, but yet we're budgeting $20,708. So where did that figure come from? And so, it's stuff like that, to me, quite frankly, I shouldn't be needing to worry about, because I should be able to look at this and I can say that, see that where it's supposed to go. But, I don't know. This budget seems pretty convoluted. So that's all I've got for now.
Well, the one thing I'll say in terms of the layout of the budget is that it looks pretty much similar to the previous years in terms of the content and the breakdown. The numbers have fluctuated slightly, but this is very similar to what you all passed in 2024 and 2023. So the layout's still the same. We haven't made it more complicated. It may have been dense all along, but that's, it's still the same as what's roughly the same layout as what's been passed before.
Do we have any idea how we're doing on actuals for this year's budget? Are we under budget for the year or over budget?
We'll provide a report with actual numbers, if you would like that tomorrow.
Just curious. Do we typically, at the end of the year, any excess or deficit, is it adjusted to the general fund for the following year?
Cash carryovers, and then if there's, any negative ending balances in accounts, then we do internal transfers to cover those.
To cover them, okay.
Mhm.
Anything else? I think the German is in our future.
And the long-term notice question.
Oh, that's right. We're all better business.
Yep. Yeah,
I'll make a motion to approve Grayling Engineering to conduct portion of the application to various places.
I'll second it.
First and a second, any further discussion?
I have a question. I guess the reason we put it off to this meeting was to figure out what funds this was coming out of this year or next year. So what was now? The answer to that is,
Yeah, correct. And I'm so sorry, I forgot to put that in the report. Council member Fulfiller reached out on that one as well. If we can get this approved, I would imagine Grayling will start working on it immediately. I do have money in the budget this year for that.
okay,
I would imagine it's gonna be pretty minimal, because it's gonna be a lot of desk work, engineer work. It's not gonna be expensive surveys or outsourcing.
it's,
And specifically, there was another 125 that was allocated for next year. toward-
166,000.
No, 125 of it for next
For
year.
the,
I think that might have been a typo.
yes.
I think some of the two
The
numbers
last
got
year
mixed
they
up. It's
deferred to this
166.
I know
That
that,
money
okay.
has-
For the
Right, I
long-term
assume-
water.
That's what I'm asking.
Right now.
about.
Yeah, the money's in the budget.
The money, but
The money.
I put the full amount in the 2026 budget in case we do not get it approved until closer to then, so that way we can fund the full project in 2026.
So what you're asking for is for us to fund the full project in 2025?
No, I'm asking for 2026, but if Grayling were to get an early start on it, I have money set aside in the 2025 budget already that could be used.
He's just asking for us to approve this,
Approved
Project
the
1B.
expenditure, yeah.
the expenditure, and he's got money already budgeted in the 25 and still some left in the. Some of it
26.
25, but all of it in 26. If it's fully billed to us in 26, we have that in the budget.
Then I want to know how much money he has in the 2025 budget.
Yeah. that's-
You tell me how much money you have in the 2025 budget and we'll approve that. But I'm not going to approve a full contract.
Well, I can't guarantee how much Grayling will use in 2025.
Well, then we've got, we're going to have to have some more discussion.
I'm sorry, I don't follow. Whether we're paying for it,
We're not gonna, how do we sign a contract, Cody, for 100, what is it, 150,000?
166.
Yeah.
And then say, well, you can start on it now. And we'll carry over everything else into 2026.
would it be better for you if I said it's approved, but you can't start till January and then we just do the 166?
Well, it wouldn't be approved until the 2026 budget.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Would that make more sense to you? I mean, it makes more sense to me to get started on this project. We have serious concerns about Stevenson's long-term water supply. So sooner we can start the project, the sooner we can get answers and be moving forward. But I cannot predict how much we will use in November and December and take that off the 2026
Can I
budget.
ask a question, point of clarification? Would this help? How much, and Dave's question was, let's say you said only partial amount
Mhm.
would be spent this year. Do you have any idea how much is sitting in your budget to cover that partial amount? Do you happen to know?
I do. I can pull that up for you. Last year, there was budgeted about $250,000 to go into water plant improvements. I opted to not do a lot of those because they weren't critical or crucial. They weren't stopping day-to-day operations. And we don't know the current status of what we will be doing long-term. So putting $250,000 of taxpayer money into that to maybe not use it in 3 years didn't seem very smart. So that money has gone to some repairs and some other stuff. There's around $175,000 in there currently.
So you have $175,000 in the 2025 budget. It could pay this whole contract then. Is that what I'm hearing?
Certainly could.
How come we're not voting on that tonight to approve that and take it out of the 2025 budget? And then, because you have the money sitting there, if I'm hearing you correctly, and then have a carryover in the next year if it's not spent this year to cover it. Then I think what Dave was getting at, let's don't spend money we don't have or we haven't decided. So if we have the money in 2025, why not approve the expenditure and then have a carryover in the next year for any that's unspent on this contract? Why aren't we doing it that way? I mean, that's a way out of this impasse.
City staff is compelled to get approval from city council for multi-year contracts. This is a multi-year contract.
And that's what we're trying
Part
to
of it,
do.
it's not an upfront cost. It's as the invoices come in.
Well,
There is money to pay for part of the project going into 2026. There's also money in the 2026 budget. This project is covered.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say, is there anything wrong with doing it the way I just suggested? Because we have the money earmarked. You're earmarking 2025 money. That's money we don't have to spend next year because we got it this year and we would just carry it over. Is there any reason we couldn't do that?
That's what the
That's what we're
mayor's
talking
saying.
about.
I know,
That's what
so
the
we're on
mayor-
the same
that's
page.
what-
Oh,
what the
okay.
mayor's
Oh,
saying.
so we're in
We
agreement.
pay it
Okay.
as the invoices
Multi-year
come in.
contract.
Anything left over gets carried over.
Yeah,
Anything
so
that's
you're.
budgeted next year doesn't get used.
Okay, I wonder how many other things that we've agreed on that we thought we disagreed on. Look, let's go back and review the last year. So,
Okay, so first and second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I'm voting. I had a point of clarification. I'm gonna abstain unless I can ask the clarification.
What that was when I asked for.
So are we? No, but you went pretty fast and I already said I had a feeble brain. So the I vote would be doing it the way that the mayor and I agreed was gonna happen there, right?
As the invoices come in.
Okay,
And I voted no.
okay. Well, I'm gonna vote aye on this. If I understood it correctly.
As you approve?
I approve.
Okay.
Yeah, because you guys made that understanding in the way that.
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
years.
So I vote yes.
Yes. Passed.
Passed. Any additional public comment on things that we've already discussed this evening? Right, what we have here, meeting adjourned 7:28.